Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Tuesday, January 10th, 2017 edition of VR News. Start with the art on the VR forums. Now, today was a pretty crappy day at work. When I saw these, it put a definite smile on my face and made the day just that much better. I'm going to put these up here. This is from the channel's VR forums, and just check these out. So this one from viewer Stonie is Simpsons Epix 911, which I got a real kick out of, me as a Simpsons character. There's one from XlordB, love it, and does it not get the sweet golden nectar of the gods perfectly? I think it does. I think it perfectly captures it. As well, guys, the beanie, or as I've learned from Xlord, the Tammy, which I still get a kick out of that name too. And then we've got this one from Shane Norman. Now, Shane was the viewer who put up the PVC piping gun for the HTC Vive, which was really freaking cool, and has that still up on his channel. He did this one, which I thought captures my buddy Exidy. He of Friday Night Gaming. Perfect, like just awesome. And of course, my bald dome in much reflecting light glory. I thought that was really freaking cool, just spot on in terms of contouring and stuff. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Like I said, I got a real kick out of that. Then next little thing I wanted to mention is my green screen arrived yesterday. Wasn't the reason I was late with the video, but I'm going to be tinkering with that right after this news. Can't wait to use that to do some mixed reality and just not have my background appearing when I'm doing games. It'll still be the small pip, not a massive pip, but it's not going to have, different backgrounds all the time. So that will be nice to tinker with. And like I said, the mixed reality, being able to sit in the Elite cockpit and have that translate, awesome. Can't wait. And then we've got Baobab's Invasion. Now, this was the animated short for VR with the little bunny rabbit, the frozen pond, and the aliens that come down. That has been downloaded over 1 million times. Now, you might say, wow, okay, 1 million, that's not much. Somebody like PewDiePie talks about strawberry jam, and boom, 5 million views, right? Yeah, it's a bit of a shame because this is VR and we like VR, but taken as the number it is, 1 million, honestly, pretty damn cool. So congrats to those guys for sure. Now, leading in with a Sony news story. Sony hinting at changes for supply chain in Europe. Now, the last 2 and a bit weeks, they have been out of stock almost everywhere for PlayStation VR hardware. And it's something they say is going to be rectified soon with more units. Speaking to expressonline.co.uk, Sony executive Kaz Hirai had this to say: PlayStation is a business that knows how to iterate and to improve all their hardware products. I would say that generally speaking, there's probably room for improvement where it makes sense. However, Sony is committed to keeping costs as low as possible and doesn't want to make changes that end up driving up the costs for the consumer. It has to be balanced with cost considerations as well because it is a consumer product for gamers. So we don't want to say it's lighter, whiter, whatever, but it's going to cost triple. That is not going to happen. And, I would have to agree. Look, at this point in time, they really don't have to do anything with the hardware. And I doubt they're going to pull a Nintendo where the early adopters get, the crappiest version of the DS. And then the people who buy it a year later get the Slims, right? The other ones. No, it's just there's not much to change on the hardware. What they need is software right now. Even their tracking system, admittedly, the worst, the most inferior of the 3, it's adequate if only there were more games. So if there's any news coming out of Sony, That's what I hope it is, game related. But taking them at their word, the supply chain issues should be resolved. And that is a good sign in one sense. Horrible for the people wanting one, but in one sense, it's not bad. It means at least there's a demand for it. Next news story, Road to VR's Ben Lang, hand testing results for HypeVR's volumetric video capture. Conventional 360-degree videos, pictures leave a little bit to be desired. For me, not sure about you guys, but for me, a lot of the times it feels literally like I'm pivoting in one spot with a warped view. Like it's just off. What these guys have done, the idea behind the technology, is capture not just a series of 360-degree pictures, string them together, as with traditional 360-degree cameras, but instead to capture the volumetric data of each frame. So all the volumetric data of the scene, of that frame. So when the world is played back, the information is available to enable the user to move inside the video. And Ben spoke about his experience, and this is what he said. With an Oculus Rift headset, I stepped into that new scene. A 30-second loop of a picturesque valley in lush Vietnam. I was standing on a rock on a tiny island in the middle of a lake. Just beyond the rock, the island covered in lush wild grasses, and a few yards away from me was a grazing water buffalo and farmer. Surrounding me in the distance, rainforest, foliage. Now to the technical. It was vivid and sharp. It felt more immersive, more pretty than any 360-degree 3D video I've ever seen through a headset. Mostly because I was able to move around with the video with proper parallax in a room scale area. And parallax is that effect, that warping effect that I was talking about, that to me detracts from the experience somewhat. That's exactly what that is. And afterwards, speaking more to that, he said, this is the experience we all want when we imagine VR video, and it's where the medium needs to head in the future to become truly compelling. I would completely agree with that. I think that's the way they need to go about it. You know, sure as hell, like I said months ago with the fish lens pivoting 360-degree stuff, it's okay for now, but that can't be the mainstay, and I don't think it will be. And then he just concluded with saying it was vivid and sharp, felt more immersive than any video. He then talked about the technology like photogrammetry, which requires somebody to canvas a scene for hours, capturing it from every conceivable angle and then compiling all the photos together in a model. With HypeVR, each frame is real-time rendered 3D model of the scene, which are playing back one after another. The rig, so this is for HypeVR that they use, has 14 RED cameras, which can each shoot at 6K, 60 frames per second. And, you know, then they talk about the data rates, which isn't as important. All of that information is at the link that I provide. Suffice it to say, volumetric capture is that next step, that 360-degree needs. This is the kind of thing for concerts, I think, events, period, that is really going to make that next step and, you know, get away from that warping effect. Next news story, Samsung and Fox launching a VR prequel to 24, which was the TV show with Kiefer Sutherland. The new series is going to be called 24 Legacy, and like its predecessor, it's going to take place in real time and revolve around the operations of a U.S. counter-terrorist unit known as CTU. So there are a number of crew members from the previous show coming back, but Kiefer himself will not be one of them. He starred in about 200 episodes of 9 seasons of the original show, so he won't be involved. It's going to be available for Gear VR and Oculus Rift headsets. No word on timing as of yet, other than the premiere, which is going to be Sunday, February the 5th. So that might be one worth checking out. I still have yet to view a TV experience that has kind of blown me away. Hopefully, this is it. I like the Mr. Robot one. I thought it was okay. It was a definite step in the right direction, but still not enough to get me really excited about it. Next news story, Pimax 8K VR headsets, not yet ready for prime time, but the 4K model impresses. This according to Joe Durbin from Upload VR. He was able to try the Pimax 8K, and his thoughts were as follows. Firstly, the aesthetics, pretty horrible. And you can look at the picture here. It kind of reminds me of a hammerhead shark head. It's kind of what it looks like. It's definitely not a looker. Well, I guess it depends on your definition of beauty, right? But to me, it looks like a hammerhead shark HMD. Doesn't quite deliver the goods is his summary. No positional tracking currently, although employees there said it was going to be available in a spring software update. As of yet, no positional tracking. Also, the unit screen was too dark to enjoy. So here you are, you've got this 200-degree field of view, and then you can't enjoy it. So all in all for him, Joe felt it definitely wasn't ready for prime time. The Pimax team, though, did say that they were going to look into the issues that he raised, including a brighter backlit display, for his comment that a lot of it was just too dark to enjoy. Also, they're using regular LCD screens, not OLED, so you've got the shortcomings there. They're using brain warp to get around some of those shortcomings with conventional LCD to optimize those LCD displays. So again, his final summary, not quite ready for prime time, but one to keep an eye out on. Now, this next story, the court case, which is going to be held in Texas. I believe it's in Dallas. When I was reading through the story, we talked about this several months ago. This is the court case brought up by the plaintiff, Zenimax, against the defendant, Facebook. Now, their claim is that Lucky did not develop this in his parents' garage, according to, the common story. Instead, that it was because of his liaisons with John Carmack that the device is what it is. And they feel Zenimax intellectual property, not just from what was put into it, but the end result of what it is. Now, Carmack himself, in a statement, said that he was allowed to liaison with Oculus, that they were not threatened at the time, they being Zenimax, because it wasn't a competing game company, but rather a competing technology. He also states that he had approached then CEO of Zenimax, Robert Altman, with an idea to manufacture their own unit, to which he stated Altman decided not to pursue the opportunity to make Zenimax a player on the ground floor of the VR hardware revolution. So you can see completely opposing viewpoints. There is a jury of 9 that they've selected already, 6 women, 3 men, includes a bank analyst among them, a geophysicist, and a daycare worker. Now, of course, Oculus responded. So opening statements are going to start Tuesday next week and Tuesday this week rather, expected to last up to about 3 weeks. Oculus in their statement said, "We are eager to present our case in court. Oculus and its founders have invested a wealth of time and money in VR because we believe it can fundamentally transform the way people interact and communicate. We are disappointed that another company is using wasteful litigation to attempt to take credit for technology that it did not have the vision, expertise, or patience to build." Now, apparently Zuckerberg may be asked to testify. This will be an interesting one, guys, to keep an eye out on, especially if you're somebody in, really any industry. It's always one of those things. You've got a specific talent or skill set. When you sign non-compete, contracts or non-disclosure ones with an employer, there's always that battle between, look, you don't want to compromise your previous employer and put their IP at risk, but at the same time, you need to be able to ply your trade. So stuff like non-disclosure, I think is better than non-compete in those types of cases, but it's got its flaws and its downsides as well. That would be beyond the scope of this video to get into, but suffice it to say, this is going to be an interesting court case to follow, guys. And next news piece, VR funding and innovation looking really strong for 2017. This according to VentureBeat. Since October of 2015, okay, the Virtual Reality Venture Capitalist Alliance has raised the following: $12 billion fund. So $12 billion fund with 35 other participating investors. Also in that time frame, HTC announced the 100 million investment fund, talked about that story. Facebook will be investing another 250 million into VR. IMAX with its 50 million into VR. And then we've got the VR fund, an early stage VC launched with a target amount of 50 million to invest. And then finally, Colopal, which is a mobile game company, launching a $50 million fund for VR game projects. So yeah, 2.3 billion in investments in the 12 months following October 2015. So look, to me, that means they've given themselves as an industry 2, 3, 4 years possibly to gain the necessary traction. If the figures aren't where they need to be at the end of that time frame, yeah, we start worrying. But the writing is going to be on the wall long before that. At this point, they've got more than enough. We just need to get more quality games out, period, in my opinion. All right, the next news story. Experiment 7. Kind of got really nervous because I saw the label Zynga. And with all due respect, if, some of you enjoy Farmville, no problem. That's your bag. Not one of my favorite games. The whole Facebook game thing kind of escaped me personally. My mom loves it, and there's other people who enjoy it. Fair enough, but we can be factual too and say, look, since then, Zynga hasn't exactly been swimming in good fortune. They had Don Matrick, former individual I worked for when I worked at Electronic Arts. He wasn't able to do much, and the revolving door of executives since then haven't been able to do much. So it's going to be interesting what is done here, because the general manager is an ex-Zynga New York though, employee. He's the one who makes a lot of the front-facing statements to the press, including in this article where he talked about the magic table concept of their company. Essentially, what they're building is a social room. We've seen this with others, big screen, etc. And what they're calling the magic table concept. So they provide all the tools for that. Other devs can publish magic table addendums, games for that, probably for a fee, right? Percentage. Right now, they've got a single-player free preview up called Magic Table Chess, available for Gear VR or Rift. So if that is your bag, you can go check that out right now via the single-person version that's up there. And then this next story I thought was kind of cool to end it with. This is the last news piece. Researchers at MIT have developed an application called Oasis. And what that does is it works with Google Tango to allow VR tours of houses, your school, your building, your grandma's house. In fact, that's the example they used in the story. You can basically give your grandma, one aspect of the technology. She basically walks around the house, doesn't have to do anything technical. And out of that, you get a model in VR of her house that you can walk around in. So very cool. That's it for the news today, guys. Now it's time to tinker with the green screen. I do love my tinkering. Actually, no, it'll be editing this, then tinkering. But there you go. Cheers as always, guys. Hope you're having a kick-ass week. Catch you on the VR flip side.